Welcome to ATCM, the Emergency Medicine Channel. Today we are discussing about one of the most common cardiac diseases or valvular heart diseases, that is mitral stenosis, and its presentation and management of mitral stenosis complication in emergency room. If we see the causes for mitral stenosis, one of the most important cause for mitral stenosis is rheumatic heart disease. Other causes can be congenital mitral stenosis, Hunter syndrome, Hurler syndrome, carcinoid syndrome, amyloidosis. All these things are there, but the most important and most common, whatever case we see in our routine practice, is always rheumatic heart disease. We know that how rheumatic heart disease present. They present with sore throat, then bilateral knee joint involvement, or fluctuating arthritis, major joints are involved. Then patient can have pancarditis. Pancarditis means patient can have pericarditis, myocarditis, endocarditis. Part of endocarditis can be a valvular lesion like mitral stenosis. Now, some special types of MS we have to see. That is juvenile mitral stenosis, symptomatic mitral stenosis below 18 years. Commonly, mitral stenosis will not present with any clinical finding till the patient become adult. But in India, because or any other third world country, because of repeated infections, patient can have severe mitral stenosis. Symptoms start much earlier than Western countries. That's why we call it as juvenile mitral stenosis. Luton-Becker syndrome is ASD, atrial septal defect, with acquired MS, not congenital MS, acquired MS. Ortner syndrome is due to mitral stenosis, there will be enlarged left atrium which compresses the recurrent laryngeal nerve that produces hoarseness of voice in the patient who is having severe mitral stenosis. This is Ortner's syndrome. Here you can see mitral valve is stenosed, normal heart you can see, and mitral stenosis you can see. In mitral stenosis, except left ventricle, all other chambers are involved. Left atrium is slightly enlarged, the pressure will go to the pulmonary circulation, then the pressure will go to the left atrium and right ventricle. So all chambers except left ventricle will be involved in mitral valve stenosis. Now we can see the symptoms of mitral stenosis. Most of the patients who is having mild to moderate mitral stenosis will be asymptomatic. But in India, because of repeated infections and repeated inflammation of mitral valve, the symptoms start much earlier. That is a problem in our country. So this is very common. Much earlier itself, patient can have cardiac symptoms. Patient can have dyspnea, orthopnea, PND, palpitation. Palpitation mainly occurs due to atrial arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation. Whenever there is left atrial enlargement, patient can have atrial arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation. Patient can have chest pain secondary to right ventricular hypertrophy. Hemoptysis can be due to pulmonary apoplexy, that is collateral formation in the pulmonary veins. Recurrent bronchitis or winter bronchitis is very common in this type of patients. Again, this is due to left atrial compression on the left main bronchus that produces recurrent infections in the lungs, or some cavitary lesion can be observed in the lungs. Now we can see the signs of mitral stenosis. One of the common mitral stenosis finding is a cyanotic red congested cheeks because of telangiectasia and pallor around. This is called as mitral phasis. But in Indian skin, we may not be observing this finding, but in Western population, you can see this finding. Jugular venous pulsation or pressure can be elevated, and patients who develop pulmonary hypertension, we can see prominent air waves. Atrial fibrillation, patient can have absent air waves. Pulse, normally mitral stenosis may not produce any change in pulse because it is nothing to do with the left ventricle, but in severe mitral stenosis, the amount of blood coming from the left atrium to left ventricle can be reduced, or due to atrial fibrillation it can be reduced. So it may slightly reduce the pulse volume. Apex is always tapping apical impulse. You can see afterwards the first start sound will be very loud. We can palpate that first start sound, loud first start sound. So we can palpate the first start sound. This is called as tapping apical impulse, and diastolic thrill can be seen in some patient. Left parasternal heave is commonly seen in left atrial enlargement or right ventricular enlargement. Chamber enlargement can be observed by echo or X-ray. Left atrium, right ventricle and right atrium all are involved, except left ventricle is not involved in mitral stenosis at all. Now when we auscultate mitral stenosis patient, normally we get a loud first start sound. We have already told loud first start sound we can see. This we know that loud first start sound is due to closing of the mitral valve. So mitral valve is very tight. It opens with a sound, that is opening snap, and it closes with a sound, that is loud first start sound. Remember, mitral valve is very tight. A tight valve opens with a sound, that is opening snap, and that closes with a sound, that is closing snap or loud first start sound. So loud first start sound will be the one of the most important finding seen in mitral stenosis. You may miss the murmur, but you will never miss the loud first start sound. So loud first start sound is very important. Then you get a opening snap also. And the murmur, if you see, it's a mid diastolic murmur. During diastole, blood from the left atrium will come to the left ventricle through a tight valve that produces sound. That's why it becomes mid diastolic murmur. Then there is a pre-systolic accentuation. So you can see that during diastole, blood from the left atrium flow to the left ventricle through a tight valve. You get a mid diastolic murmur. At the end of the diastole, atrial booster kick or atrial contraction occurs. The remaining blood will go to the left ventricle. That produces a pre-systolic accentuation. So the sound increases at the end of the diastole, pre-systolic accentuation. This murmur is best heard over the apex with bell of the stethoscope in left lateral position, breath held in expiration. This murmur can be increased during squatting or exercise, and it is localized to apex only. And remember that all diastolic murmur, the duration is very important, not the sound which we heard by the stethoscope is not that important. That's why diastolic murmurs are normally not graded. So grading all depends on the sound of the murmur, but here the duration of the murmur is very important. Duration, if it increases, the lesion is severe. All lesions after mitral valve, like aortic valve lesion, aortic regurgitation or aortic stenosis, all these findings of aortic stenosis or aortic regurgitation can be either masked or aggravated by mitral stenosis. Like a patient who is having aortic stenosis with mitral stenosis, the symptoms of aortic stenosis can be aggravated due to mitral stenosis. A patient who is having aortic regurgitation and mitral stenosis, the clinical findings of aortic regurgitation like peripheral finding can be masked by mitral stenosis because the amount of blood coming from the left atrium to left ventricle will be reduced or blocked by mitral stenosis. That's why the clinical findings can be either masked or aggravated. Now we have already discussed what is auscultatory finding in mitral stenosis. You get a loud first start sound, that is due to the closing of a tight mitral valve. So loud first start sound. Then you can get second heart sound. If there is no pulmonary hypertension, second heart sound may not be changed, or maybe mostly it is normal. But you can see an opening snap after second heart sound, that is opening of tight mitral valve. So the valve opens with a sound, that is opening snap. Valve closes with a sound, that is closing snap or loud S1. Then you can get a mid-diastolic murmur. Green thing is mid-diastolic murmur. Then at the end of the mid-diastolic murmur, you get a pre-systolic accentuation of the same murmur. That is because of the atrial booster kick or atrial contraction at the end of the diastole or pre-systolic. That's why it is called as pre-systolic accentuation. Now we can see the complication of mitral stenosis. One of the most important complication is pulmonary hypertension. But other complications like patient can have pulmonary edema, atrial fibrillation that may lead to embolic strokes, recurrent bronchitis, hemoptysis, pulmonary hypertension, RVH, congestive cardiac failure. All these things are due to the pressure which is produced by the tight mitral valve in the left atrium that will be transmitted to the pulmonary circulation, and ultimately it will be transmitted to the right atrium or right ventricle. So that may produce enlarged left ventricle, pulmonary pressure increases, patient can have pulmonary edema, pulmonary hypertension, patient can have lung finding because of obstruction in the major bronchus, or recurrent laryngeal nerve can be compressed, patient can have a hoarseness of voice. So all these things can happen. Now pulmonary hypertension, once the patient develops, there will be findings because of the high pressure in the pulmonary arteries. Dullness in the second space is most important clinical finding. Then prominent A wave in jugular venous pulsation, loud P2 and ESM in the pulmonary area, ejection systolic murmur in the pulmonary area can occur. Sometimes you can get pulmonary regurgitation murmur, that is Graham-Steele's murmur. RVH, parasternal heave can be there, and late phase of this left ventricular enlargement, there will be functional tricuspid regurgitation. You can see some signs in complication. If the patient develops atrial fibrillation in mitral stenosis, it occurs mainly due to left atrial enlargement. You can get irregular pulse, and S1 will completely change. Normally in mitral stenosis you get a loud first start sound, but since the atrial fibrillation produces varying amount of blood pumped from the atrium to ventricle or ventricle to outside, you get a irregular S1 and its intensity will be varying. So varying S1 is very classical of atrial fibrillation. Absent A waves in JVP, absent pre-systolic accentuation, that is very important. In atrial fibrillation there will not be any atrial booster kick, that's why pre-systolic accentuation will be absent. Patient can have embolic stroke, but remember, if patient is having atrial fibrillation, most of the time the heart rate will be very high. You may not get all this finding, you may get only varying first start sound. Now opening snap, if we discuss about opening snap, it is better heard in the medial to apex, in the area of medial to apex. It increases with hand grip, standing, expiration. These are dynamic auscultation methods to augment opening snap. Opening snap is produced due to a sudden tensing of anterior mitral leaflet due to sudden stoppage of mitral dome when it moves towards left ventricle. It indicates pliability of valve. Opening snap is there, the valve is good. Opening snap is absent or not heard means that valve is completely damaged or it is calcified. So absent opening snap can be heard in very mild mitral stenosis. Their valve is not so tense, so you don't get any opening snap. Very severe mitral stenosis, calcified mitral stenosis with heart failure, mitral stenosis with aortic regurgitation. All these conditions, opening snap will be absent. In a moderate to severe mitral stenosis, most of the time we can get opening snap. Remember, if opening snap is present, then that's a good sign valve is repairable. Now, routinely we take chest X-ray in mitral stenosis. There are some findings which are classical for mitral stenosis. One of the classical finding is straightening of the left atrial appendage. You can see here, left side of the heart, the area which is straight, left side of the heart is straight. Now, shadow in shadow or double density sign. The right side of the enlarged left atrium, pushes into the adjacent lung and creates an additional contour superimposed over the right heart. You can see here there is a shadow in the right side within the heart, that is either called as shadow in shadow or double density sign. There are a lot of other findings. In that, most important for an emergency doctor is we have to look for any pulmonary edema in this patient. Bilateral diffused infiltrates can be there in pulmonary edema. Now, echo should be done in all patients who is having mitral stenosis. We can see the thickness of the mitral valve. So, if valve orifice is 1.5 to 2 centimeter square, then it is mild. Moderate is 1.1 to 1.5. Severe is less than 1 centimeter. From echo, we can know which all chambers are dilated. Any other lesions like mitral regurgitation or tricuspid regurgitation is present or not, pulmonary hypertension which is present or not, all these findings can be picked up by echo. Now, how to assess severity of mitral stenosis? By clinical methods and echo. Duration of diastolic murmur is directly proportional to severity. I already discussed that. In systolic murmurs, the loudness of murmur is very important, whereas in diastolic murmurs, the duration is very important. Like aortic regurgitation, it's a diastolic murmur, early diastolic murmur. The duration is very important, whereas in aortic stenosis or mitral regurgitation, the loudness of the murmur is very important. So, systolic murmur, loudness is very important, diastolic murmur, duration is very important. Longer the murmur, severe the stenosis. A2 to opening snap interval, if it is shorter, then the stenosis is severe. You can see the picture here. If atrial fibrillation or pulmonary hypertension, both are complications of mitral stenosis, if they are present, the lesion is very severe. Then echo can be done. It can be graded into mild, moderate and severe. Associated MR also can be picked up by echo. If MR is predominant in a patient who is having MS, you can see the first heart sound will be soft. Now, once we have a patient with mitral stenosis and if the valve is repairable, we can go for percutaneous mitral balloon valvotomy. Indications for percutaneous mitral balloon valvotomy are severe mitral stenosis, pliable valve, non-calcified valve. If the patients are symptomatic, if there is no left atrial thrombus, if thrombus is there, we have to treat that first. Absence of moderate to severe mitral regurgitation. If regurgitation is there, we cannot repair the valve, we have to replace the valve. Patients who are too old or fail to surgery, if they are unable to undergo a major surgery, then this can be tried. If all these things are not there or indications are not there, if patient is having severe mitral stenosis or associated mitral regurgitation, then we have to go for complete replacement of mitral valve. One of the most important problem in mitral stenosis in pregnant ladies, if they have associated mitral stenosis, the complications are very high. Patient can have reduced cardiac output due to mitral stenosis. So that symptoms can be there, weakness, easy fatigability, all these things can be there. Patient can develop severe pulmonary edema. Patient can develop arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation, supraventricular tachycardia. So all these patients may require anticoagulation with rate and rhythm control during pregnancy. So these things are very, very important. So specialized treatment or care must be given during pregnancy. And if the patient come with pulmonary edema, we know that patient should be kept in propped up position, oxygen should be given, and Lasix or furosemide can be given to relieve from pulmonary edema. If the patient come with atrial fibrillation or supraventricular tachycardia, Rate control is most important. We can use beta blockers for that, and invasive intervention may be required during pregnancy because many drugs cannot be given during pregnancy. So percutaneous mitral valve valvotomy can be given, and it is reserved for patients with severe symptoms uh, with maximum medical treatment. We have discussed in detail about mitral stenosis. Thank you.